This is Chip Maxwell, and you're listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. Tariffs are back in the headlines, but are they really just bad news? We break down the economic pros and cons, from rising consumer costs to a surprising boost in federal revenue. We'll also dig into the political messaging, the timing, and what all this means for investors, retirees, and smart planners alike. It's a conversation that cuts through the noise. Let's get into it. Tariffs dominating the economic and financial news, and what's on, what's off, what has happened, what might happen. This could spark inflation. Consumer prices could rise. This could hurt markets, export markets for agricultural folks in Nebraska and the Midwest. We know the downside. Now, I want to hit you with the other side of the coin here. We've got a few headlines. Well, here's the first one. This is from CNBC. IMF, that's the International Monetary Fund. IMF forecasts U.S. fiscal deficit will dip in 2025. Thanks to higher tariff revenue. Well, that is not something we often see in the news, a reduction in the deficit. Do you think the analysis is accurate? And perhaps this is the good side, the glass half full side of the tariff equation.
Well, yeah, so we collected a pretty good chunk of revenue the first month already that these new tariffs were in place. And now we collect tariffs every month. And again, people seem to think that this is something new. Tariffs have been around a long time. In fact, Trump enacted a few tariffs, and Biden kept them, right, on China in particular. And those tariffs are still there, and some new ones have been added. And we've increased the revenue by about 40% the first month these new tariffs are in there. So that goes directly to reduce our deficit spending. Now, that's not reducing our debt. We are still deficit spending. And sometimes the news, the politicians like, hey, I reduced the deficit. Didn't reduce the debt. The deficit is the amount, the yearly number. The debt is what we owe,
we've accumulated because of previous deficits.
And again, I believe the messaging, they messed it up. How this Liberation Day came about, obviously that. But the other thing
You've said that a couple times. What do you mean exactly? Do you think the rollout was a mess?
They should have rolled it out with, hey, we're going to increase revenue from these, and we're going to turn around and cut taxes for those that need it the most, the lowest income people, which is generally what we're hearing is now what is going to try and take place in their tax. But why didn't he have all this lined up and sell it all at the same time so that the let's face it, people under 100,000 income overwhelmingly voted for Trump, at least from the analysis we have seen. So that is who they're trying to target with this. They're trying to target those who do not have a ton of assets, et cetera, the highest income components. They're trying to appease the very blue-collar-ish voter that brought this administration to office. And he's got a cabinet full of Democrats, et cetera, that are not, this cabinet looks nothing like this, but yet the media, the far left, are just attack every day on social media. Elizabeth Warren, he's trying to cut Medicare, Medicaid. There's not been one proposal, not $1 proposed to be cut from Medicare, Social Security, Medicare, anywhere. Yet it's constant that people are being bombarded with this message. And so here you are, they're trying to raise revenue, but again, they did not time it right. They didn't have all the package together, and they should have done it. Now what we're hearing behind the doors is India has already lined up a deal. Japan is very close. It's tied on to them buying some energy out of Alaska, natural gas in particular, right? So they're trying to tie some of these trade deals to purchasing our energy and purchasing our debt, our treasuries, right? Two huge components to the overall plan, which is they can only have, debt spending at 3% of GDP, et cetera. There are things they're trying to accomplish, and we're making some progress. The other side of the coin, they're again, oh my gosh, he's killing your 401k. The markets are down about 6% year to date. Nobody said anything when Biden had the markets go down 20%, right? So again, the politics, leave that out. I don't care where you stand politically. You need to have a financial plan that can weather all storms, that is proactive in nature, is going to help you make, ends meet of these news stories, which is why we try to communicate, why we do this show, and communicate to our clientele pretty regularly.
I found myself at lunch last week with some friends. These guys go all the way back to high school, and we'd were pretty candid with each other, and they said, "Well, Trump, what's
Did
Trump's
you guys
doing?
have lunch by candlelight just for reminiscence sake? Or?
Oh, you're right on my heels there, Mr. 55, 56. Okay. And, but, so people are kind of sounding off on Trump. And I said, ask me that question a year from now. Because a lot of what he's trying to do, yes, there's pain up front, but let's see where the economy is. Let's see where our trade balance is next year. Let's see how the markets are doing a year from now.
And I think that's fair. I think that's a fair way to do this. Let's take an assessment. Hey, if we go forward 2 years from now, what benchmarks would you want to look at to say this implementation was successful, right? And for me, it would be GDP is rising, not falling, right? Unemployment is still within the same range that we are now, right? And Americans feel better. Confidence is up. Well, we know confidence is in the toilet. The University of Michigan's consumer sentiment reports dropped off a
week,
cliff,
there's
right?
a new indicator showing that.
But that's because the media is going to take advantage of negative headlines. That's what sells media, right? And on Fox News to MSNBC, it doesn't matter. They love to put the fear in your life every night if you turn the TV on. So I think that's a really good thing is how'd that conversation go? Were they willing to at least judge things later,
everybody kind of thought, that's true, because it may take some time for all of this to run its full course because, we've just been talking about the revenue factor. Here's another factor, David, that we're going to have to see how this plays out. And this was a main reason Trump wanted to do this. I'm going to hit you with two headlines, actually, from Fox Business. The first one is IBM announces $150 billion investment in the U.S. And then a subsequent headline from Fox Business, these companies have announced their intention to increase U.S. manufacturing amid Trump's first 100 days. David, let me just run through this list really quickly. Taiwan Semiconductor, so the chip company that's in the middle of all the new action and AI and so forth. Taiwan Semiconductor, $100 billion. Eli Lilly is going to double its American manufacturing to $50 billion. GE Aerospace, $1 billion. Apple, $500 billion. Hyundai, $21 billion. NVIDIA, no dollar amount, but 1 million square feet of manufacturing space for AI supercomputers. I think that's going to be in Texas. Abbott Labs, $500 million. Chobani, my wife will be happy about that. She used their creamer, $1.2 billion. Toyota, $88 million. Roche, the Swiss pharmaceutical company, $50 billion. This is real money. This is real investment in American manufacturing. Boy, if this all plays out, things are going to look very different a year from now.
Well, and yes, that's good. The downside of that is these investments may not have all the jobs affiliated just in a year, which is why I said you got to give this even more time.
Well, that's true. Some of these are 4 or 5 year phase-ins.
However, if they do come through, then that would be an amazing uptick in our economy and production in the U.S. And you mentioned some key things in there, right? So the companies you mentioned were related to pharmaceuticals, AI technology, computing, semiconductors. These are all strategically very important to be manufactured in the U.S. from a national security point of view. On top of that, this week, Chip, Apple, and I didn't get a chance to send you the story, Apple announced they're moving all their manufacturing for U.S.-based iPhones out of China and over into the neighboring country of India. The next 18 to 24 months. So, in other words, and the reason is they don't want to pay tariffs, China-based tariffs. They think they're going to stick around for a little while. So they are trying to appease this current administration in some way, shape, or form. Now, can they really do it? I don't know. Well, logistically, the point here is, and again, this is why Trump wants Greenland so bad, is what we call rare earth minerals, rare earths as they're referred to in our industry. China controls about not just 90% of the supply, but the actual manufacturing of those. In other words, taking them out of the ground, the process, which turns them into the components needed to manufacture semiconductors, supercomputers, all these things. There are rare earth minerals. However, there are new deposits being discovered outside, including here in the U.S. Now, we'll talk maybe more on this next week. I'll send you some show. But conductors and fusion, all this stuff is going to make energy much cheaper in the future if you can get the deposits that we have right here in the U.S. China does control the world's largest deposits, but there are several countries, India, Australia, the U.S., Greenland, Canada, that have these types of deposits.
Wasn't that one of the negotiating elements with Ukraine?
Absolutely.
to get access to its rare minerals.
Yeah, and again, Zelensky doesn't seem like he wants any peace there whatsoever. So, and again, people are, oh, you can't tell him to give up Crimea. He gave up Crimea 11 years ago, right? So anyway, that's a whole nother story. But Rubio was just over there trying to negotiate a deal, and it didn't seem to get through, at least as of this recording. But there's a lot going on here. And so again, have patience and stop with the rhetoric on the news and look at what's really happening. Are the markets down 20%? No, they're down about 6% year to date. That is nothing, right? Relative. And tax revenues are up, as we just talked about, not down. So again, what you're hearing on the news and what is actually happening as a reality are two different things. Now, do we have some problems in the economy? You betcha. I've been telling you recession's coming. It has nothing to do with Trump. It's on its way, and it's coming very, very soon.
Thank you for listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. If you want to learn how to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, visit retiresmartpodcast.com. And make sure to subscribe to keep up with new episodes every week.